Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman on midweekpolitics.com.
Hey, welcome back to Midweek Politics. If you are on the web, make sure you're getting our newsletter, midweekpolitics.com, and sign up. You can also email us, radio@midweekpolitics.com. The other day, all of last week, actually, Anderson Cooper on CNN had a really good kind of investigative piece on Scientology. And the piece was about both the Church of Scientology, and there's an organization called the Sea Organization, SEA, which is kind of like the central management operation of the church. The investigation, it was really very well done. It went into accusations that the church's leader, David Miscavige, regularly beats and punches people. And this is something that he's done for a long time, that if you divorce someone who's in the Church of Scientology, they're told to disconnect. There's disconnection. Or have no more contact, essentially. A whole bunch of other stuff. The investigation was really well done. They talked to a lot of people. When I see it, it's very clear when you hear the two sides of the story. The people who are defending the Church of Scientology seem to be relatively unbalanced and not credible and have very specific motive for lying, whereas those who indicate that these kinds of acts are going on seem to be much more credible to me. And I actually have a story that I haven't told. This happened last summer, where I was kind of recruited for the Church of Scientology. And I think I told you about this, did I not?
Yeah.
Where do I even start? I guess I'll just back up. My mom was having work done at her house, and she had a handyman type guy doing work there. And she was on vacation during that time. So she said, just check in on what's going on, stop by. If the guy needs anything, let him in, let him out, whatever. I assumed that the guy was a conservative because I always would hear him. He would bring a little radio and he'd be listening to conservative talk. He would have conservative talk show host stickers on his work vehicle. So I was like, this is a conservative guy. I assumed he was Christian or Catholic or what have you. At one day, I'm just there. Just, hey, how's it going? Is everything okay? You need anything? You need me to ask my mom anything next time I talk to her? And he brings up Scientology. He says, do you know about Scientology type of thing? Very open-ended question. And I assume that knowing that he is a conservative politically, he is going to come from a Christian angle and make fun of Scientology. So I say, yeah, isn't it the religion that the science fiction writer started, L Ron Hubbard, thinking that was the way he was going to go? And he says, oh, no. That's it's funny you would mention that, actually, but no. It's a lot of people think that he's a science fiction writer, but actually the guy's really a genius, and he's written so many books. I'm actually a Scientologist myself, and my kids are Scientologists. He told me where in the country, which church. I won't mention it, just not to give it. I don't want these people identified, even though it may be good for them to be pointed out. And but it's really a lot of people actually. When they say those things, they are they're kind of trying to suppress. They're being suppressive. And I acted like this is the first I ever heard of the suppressive person thing. But I've known in my research of Scientology there is an SP label that if somebody in the church identifies you as protesting what they do, criticizing the church, you're labeled an SP, a suppressive person. And it's not good to be labeled a suppressive person. I know you've heard about this too.
Yes.
So at this point, I'm honestly pretty horrified, and I don't want to be labeled an SP. So I just play along and say, hey, I'm sure he's about to tell me some great stories. So he says, yeah, my kids are actually kind of high up members in the church. My wife and I aren't really high up, but we've been doing it 20 years. And I'll tell you, I've been able to do miracles because of Scientology. He says this to me. I've been able to do miracles because I am a Scientologist. And then he says, hey, Dave, aren't you a business guy? L Ron Hubbard, he could teach you about business. A lot of his books are written about business, and you should look into that. And by the way, I sell some of the books. I sell the Scientology books. And I sold one to another client of mine. And, she was kind of like, I don't know about Scientology. She read it. She loved it. Now she's going to become a Scientologist. You don't have to agree with everything. And I'd be glad to sell you a book. So this guy is trying to sell me Scientology books in my mom's home at this point. A bizarre experience. But again, I'm horrified. I don't want David Miscavige coming to my house and punching me in the face for no reason. I don't want to be labeled a suppressive person. I don't want Scientologists outside of my house or trying to take over the radio show, so I stay as quiet as I can. And I say, it's interesting. I don't know that it's for me. I'll stick with what I'm doing now. Thank you though. Obviously, within 5 minutes, I'm on the phone to my mom saying we can never hire this guy again. He's proselytizing for the Church of Scientology, and he's trying to sell me books. 10 minutes later, as I'm leaving, I walk out and I look in the mailbox, my mom's mailbox, mind you, and there's a letter in there, an outgoing letter, kind of standing up for the post office to pick up. I grab it just to look, and it's addressed to the Church of Scientology in the city where his kids live. And I can tell, just because it was very sunny out, I wasn't looking, but it was just so sunny I could see right through the envelope, that it's a check written out for a pretty significant amount by a guy that I don't think has that much money, to the Church of Scientology.
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever been approached by the Scientologists, but that's one anecdotal story.
I have, I think I've walked by like a booth on the street where they're selling books or whatever.
And I'll tell you, we talk to people on the show, we get into kind of contentious situations, and I'm not uncomfortable with it. This made me very uncomfortable because I didn't know, am I going to go on some list if I start, did just me saying, didn't a science fiction writer create the religion, get me on the list of suppressive persons?
Yeah, I think this kind of falls, in a way, under the same category as the urologist we were talking about. I mean, he's bringing politics to the workplace, and in a major way. And this guy is proselytizing
in a much more significant way.
While doing his job in other people's homes.
Right. And sending out checks to that effect from other people's mailboxes, which, hey, I get it. His return address is on there. I don't want the post office guy thinking that my mom is donating to the Church of Scientology. It just can't. There's nothing good that could come of that misunderstanding, if you know what I mean.
Very, very bizarre.
So if you have your own Scientology stories, radio@midweekpolitics.com. I anticipate getting quite a few, and we'll read them for you next week. Midweek Politics is brought to you in part by Jackson & Connor, classically modern men's apparel in Northampton, Massachusetts on the second floor of Thorne's Marketplace, and by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.